The Silent Galaxy. Archivist Threx, is it true that you've dedicated your entire career to studying myths? The question came from a young reporter, her 6 appendages holding various recording devices, as she faced the elderly Silveran academic. Threx's scaled hide rippled with blue amusement patterns as his 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Not myths, precisely. Historical enigmas, he corrected. There's a difference between folklore and documented species that have simply disappeared. Like the humans? She asked, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Threx stiffened, his amusement patterns fading to a serious gray. Precisely like the humans. The interview was taking place in Threx's private study aboard the Galactic Archive Station, a ring-shaped marvel orbiting the political center of the Confederated Systems. Behind him, holographic displays showed fragmentary data, ancient ship designs, partial DNA sequences, and scattered transmissions from a world called Earth. But humans have been gone for over 300 cycles. The official records declare them extinct after the Hive War, the reporter pressed. Official records can be incomplete, Threx said carefully. The Terrans, that's what they called themselves, were a remarkable species, physiologically unexceptional, but their adaptability was unmatched in the known galaxy. Yet they couldn't adapt enough to survive. Threx's hide flashed a pattern that had no translation in standard language, something between irritation and anticipation. Perhaps, but consider this. Before their homeworld was devastated, they had already established colonies on 17 worlds within their system and were pushing outward. Most species barely manage 3 before mastering interstellar travel. But the Hive destroyed all those worlds. So we're told. Threx turned to one of his displays. Did you know that in the 50 cycles before their supposed extinction, humans advanced from primitive chemical propulsion to near-light speed travel? No other species in Confederate records has compressed technological advancement so dramatically. The reporter's recording appendages lowered slightly. Are you suggesting humans might have survived somewhere beyond Confederate space? I'm suggesting, Threx said carefully, that extinction should never be declared without a body. High Admiral Ziv Kor of the Confederated Defense Fleet stood at the observation deck of her flagship, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the blue lights. Her compound eyes reflected the holographic display, showing anomalous energy readings from the Perseus Void, a region of space considered uninhabitable due to intense radiation and sparse resources. These readings make no sense, she chittered to her second in command. The void has been dead space for millennia. Nothing could survive there, let alone build anything producing this much energy. Her second, Commander Vok, manipulated the display with his manipulator limbs. The pattern is too regular for a natural phenomenon. Whatever it is, it's artificial. Pirates. Outlaws. Unlikely. The void offers no strategic advantage, and the radiation would kill most species within days without heavy shielding. Ziv Kor's mandibles clicked in irritation. Dispatch a scout vessel. Minimal crew, maximum sensors. I want to know what's out there. The scout vessel distant whisper approached the edge of the Perseus Void cautiously. Its captain, a methane breather named Lurks, had been selected for his exceptional caution and analytical mind. Radiation levels are within tolerable parameters, reported his sensor officer. But there's something strange about the particle distribution. It's as if someone has been cleaning the void. Cleaning? Explain, Lurks demanded, his tentacles rippling with concern. The natural radiation should be uniform, but there are corridors, pathways, where the levels drop by 60%. They form a network through the void. Lurks considered this. Follow the clearest path. Minimal thrust, passive sensors only. For 3 days, the distant whisper crept through the void, following the mysterious radiation-free corridors. The ship's crew grew increasingly tense as they ventured deeper into what should have been empty space. On the 4th day, they found it. Captain, massive structure detected at coordinates 227 Mark 33. The sensor officer reported. voice trembling. The main view screen showed what appeared to be a space station, but unlike any design in Confederate records, it was utilitarian, almost brutal in its efficiency. No aesthetic flourishes or cultural markings adorned its hull. Just seamless, dark metal with occasional lights blinking in patterns. Are we being scanned? Lurks asked. Negative. If they have sensors, they're undetectable to us. Open a channel, all frequencies, standard greeting protocol. The communications officer complied, transmitting the universal peace signal used throughout Confederate space. For long minutes, there was no response. Then, a simple text message appeared on their communications array. The words were in standard trade language, but the syntax was oddly formal. Identity uli suod and FIR midi. Suon FEDERATDD Systems Vessel. State purpose. Lurks dictated a response. Scientific exploration. Non-hostile intent. Request identification and purpose of installation. The reply came faster this time. Outpost DLTA. Monitoring station. Approach no VURTER. Retreat to minimum safe distance of 10,000 km and await instructions. Captain, the sensor officer interrupted. I'm detecting multiple power surges across the station. Weapons systems activating. Lurks's tentacles coiled in alarm. Full reverse thrust. Retreat to specified distance. As the distant whisper backed away, new readings appeared on their sensors. Captain, there are more of them. Many more. The enhanced scans revealed dozens of similar structures scattered throughout the void, connected by those radiation-free corridors. They had stumbled upon not just a station, but a network. The emergency session of the Confederate High Council was called to order, with representatives from all 67 member species in attendance. High Admiral Zivkor presented the findings from the Perseus Void. The structures appear to be part of an early warning system, she explained. They monitor not just the void, but the space beyond Confederate borders. Based on energy signatures, we estimate they've been operational for at least 70 cycles. 70 cycles, exclaimed the Vortian representative, his crystalline form flashing with agitation. That's impossible. We've had regular patrols through that region. Patrols that followed standard routes, Zivkor countered. These structures are positioned specifically to avoid detection. They're in the blind spots of our sensor networks. Have we identified the builders? Asked the Phelan delegate, her luminescent tendrils pulsing with concern. High Admiral Zivkor hesitated. The technology doesn't match any known species in our database. However, there are indicators. She gestured, and a hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, a partial schematic recovered from the station's external design. Archivist Threx, present as a technical advisor, stepped forward. His scales had gone completely white, the Silveran expression of profound shock. That's impossible, he whispered. What is it, Archivist? Demanded the council chairperson. This design philosophy, the modular construction, the redundant systems, the emphasis on functionality over form. Threx's voice strengthened. These are human engineering principles. I've studied them for decades. A murmur ran through the council chamber. The humans are extinct, stated the chairperson flatly. Their worlds were destroyed in the Hive War. They're known worlds, Threx corrected. What if some escaped? What if they rebuilt somewhere beyond our space? That's preposterous, huffed the Vortian representative. Even if some survived, they couldn't have constructed something of this scale without our knowledge. The debate might have continued indefinitely, if not for the urgent message that interrupted the council session. A junior officer rushed in, bypassing security protocols in her haste. High Admiral, Confederate Border Station 7 has reported multiple contacts emerging from the Perseus Void. Zivkor snapped to attention. How many contacts? 300 and counting. High Admiral. Their in formation. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Show me, Zivkor demanded. The main display activated, showing a tactical feed from Border Station 7. What they saw silenced every voice in the chamber. Ships, hundreds of them, emerging from the void in perfect formation. They were sleek, angular vessels of varying sizes, from small frigates to massive dreadnoughts, all bearing the same utilitarian design philosophy as the monitoring stations. No cultural markings, no unnecessary features, just pure, functional warships. Threat assessment. Zivkor asked, her voice unnaturally calm. Their weapon systems are active, but not locked on our stations. They're advancing at 1/4 light speed on a direct course toward Confederate space. Have they transmitted any messages? 1. High Admiral. Audio only. Play it. The message that filled the council chamber was spoken in perfect standard trade language, but the voice had an unmistakable cadence that sent shivers through everyone present, a rhythm that hadn't been heard in Confederate space for 3 centuries. To all Confederate vessels and installations, this is Admiral Ileana Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We have returned. Prepare to receive our diplomatic envoy. Any aggressive action will be met with appropriate response. Chen out. In the stunned silence that followed, Archivist Threx began to laugh, a sound of vindication tinged with fear. Not extinct, he said to no one in particular. Just waiting. The humans have returned to the galaxy that left them for dead. The fleet continued its advance, a silent armada of ships representing a species that should have been nothing more than a historical footnote. The myth had become reality, and the Confederated systems were about to discover what humanity had become during their long absence. The Unconquered, the diplomatic vessel from the human fleet, had docked with the Confederate Council Station 6 hours ago. Now the council chamber had been converted into an impromptu meeting room, with security personnel from both sides standing vigilant along the walls. The human ambassador stood alone at the center of the chamber. Unlike the council members, who sat elevated on their traditional platforms, she had requested to remain standing. Ambassador Sophia Rice was tall for a human, nearly 2 meters, with dark skin and silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a severe knot. Her uniform was simple, charcoal gray with minimal insignia, just a small emblem on her collar depicting Earth surrounded by stars. "Let me understand correctly," said the Confederate chairperson, a Phelan named Lyrith, whose luminescent tendrils were currently pulsing with barely contained agitation. "You claim that humanity not only survived the Hive War, but has been rebuilding beyond our borders for 3 centuries without detection." Ambassador Rice nodded once. "That is correct." "Impossible," declared the Vordian representative. "Our sensor networks extend to the edge of the galaxy." "Your sensor networks," Rice said with the faintest smile, "were designed to detect the technologies you understand. We adapted." Archivist Threx, seated in the advisor section, leaned forward. "How many survived?" he asked, scales flickering with academic excitement. "Initially, less than 1 million, Rice answered. "We evacuated who we could when it became clear the Hive couldn't be stopped conventionally." 1 million. High Admiral Zivkor chittered in disbelief. "From a population of billions." "Yes," Rice said simply. "The ones who could reach the deep space evacuation points. The ones your Confederacy didn't have room for on your evacuation vessels." An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. The accusation hung in the air, uncontested. "And now?" asked Threx. "Now we number approximately 4 billion, spread across 17 core systems and 31 frontier worlds." The number shocked the council into silence. From near extinction to a multi-system civilization in just 3 centuries was unprecedented. "Why return now?" Lyrith asked, her voice softer. "After all this time?" Ambassador Rice's expression hardened. "Because what's coming next will make the Hive look like a border skirmish." "They abandoned us," Ileana Chen said, staring out the viewport of her flagship, the UES Reckoning. "When the Hive attacked Earth, the Confederacy evacuated their embassy staff and diplomatic corps first. They had the capacity to save millions more, but they prioritized their own. Admiral Chen was speaking to Captain Marcus Wade, her longtime second-in-command. Where Chen was all ice and precision, Wade was fire and intuition, a combination that had served the United Earth Defense Force well. "That was 300 years ago, Admiral," Wade said carefully. "Different leaders, different times. Different faces, same principles," Chen countered. "The Confederacy operates on a strict hierarchy of species value. Humans were newcomers, expendable. And yet here we are," Wade said with a slight smile. "The expendables, returning with the most advanced fleet in known space." Chen turned from the viewport. At 63, she was old by pre-war standards, but modern medical technology had kept her body and mind sharp. Her features were a blend of her Chinese ancestry and the genetic adaptations that had become common among humans born in the Exodus generation. Slightly larger eyes adapted to lower light conditions, denser bone structure for variable gravity environments. "We need them, Marcus," she admitted reluctantly. "As much as I'd like to show them exactly what humanity has become without their help, we need their resources and their territory." "For Project Bulwark?" Chen nodded. "The simulations are clear. When the Void Swarm arrives, we'll need every advantage, including allies. Even allies who left us for dead. Even them." Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Reyes had finished her briefing on the Void Swarm, an extragalactic hive mind of machine-organic hybrids that had been detected approaching from the Andromeda Galaxy. "Our deep space monitoring stations picked up their signal patterns 7 years ago," she explained. "We've been tracking them ever since. Based on their trajectory and velocity, they'll reach this galaxy within 15 years. 15 years is substantial time for preparation," observed Zivkor. "Not against an enemy of this scale," Rice countered. "Their advance force alone outmatches the combined fleets of humanity and the Confederacy." "You've faced them before?" asked Threx, intrigued. "Scout elements. They send advance parties ahead of their main force. We engaged one at the edge of what you call the Perseus Void 3 years ago." Rice tapped her wrist device, projecting footage of the battle. The council watched in stunned silence as 5 human vessels engaged a massive asymmetrical construct that seemed to shift and reconfigure itself throughout the battle. The human ships moved with uncanny coordination, executing maneuvers that should have torn them apart under the stress. "Impossible," whispered Zivkor. "Those acceleration patterns would kill any organic pilot." "Not with our inertial dampening technology," Rice stated, "and our neural interface systems allow our pilots to react at machine speeds." The footage continued, showing the human vessels eventually destroying the alien construct, but at the cost of 2 of their own ships. "This was one scout," Rice emphasized. "The main force consists of thousands of such entities, each capable of adapting to whatever tactics are used against it." Lyrith's tendrils had gone completely still, a sign of extreme distress among Phalans. "What do you propose, Ambassador?" "An alliance. Humanity provides the military technology and tactical expertise. The Confederacy provides resources, manufacturing capacity, and territory for defensive installations." "And command structure?" asked Zivkor suspiciously. "Joint," Rice said firmly. "Equal leadership with decisions made by consensus when possible, and a predetermined chain of command for combat situations. The Confederate Council does not simply hand over military authority to outside powers," the Vordian representative objected. Rice's expression didn't change, but her voice took on a harder edge. "Then perhaps the Confederacy should prepare to face the Void Swarm alone." 3 days after the initial meeting, tensions between the human fleet and Confederate forces had reached a breaking point. While diplomatic discussions continued, military vessels from both sides maintained combat readiness, leading to several near confrontations in the border regions. The situation deteriorated further when a Confederate patrol vessel fired warning shots at a human scout ship that had ventured too close to a restricted sector. The human vessel didn't return fire but retreated while broadcasting a message across all frequencies. Incident recorded. Response pending. In the council chamber, accusations flew. Your vessels violated restricted space. The Vortian representative shouted. Your patrol fired without provocation at a clearly marked scout vessel. Rise responded calmly. In diplomatic parlance, that's considered an act of aggression. Enough. Lyrith intervened. This bickering serves no one. If what you say about this void swarm is true, we cannot afford division. If, Rise raised an eyebrow, you still doubt our intelligence. We have only your word and some footage that could be fabricated, said Zivkor. Rise was about to respond when her communication device chimed. She frowned as she checked it, then looked up with sudden urgency. We've detected a void swarm scout entering the Ferox system, she announced. One of your border colonies. Impossible, Zivkor declared. Our monitoring is inadequate for detecting their signature, Rise interrupted. Admiral Chen has diverted 2 battle groups to intercept, but they're requesting Confederate support. Lyrith looked to Zivkor. High Admiral. After a moment's hesitation, Zivkor nodded. I'll dispatch our nearest battle squadron. But this had better not be a deception. It's not, Rise said grimly. And now you'll see firsthand what we're up against. The battle for Ferox unfolded over 18 brutal hours. The Confederate squadron arrived first, engaging the Void Swarm Scout, a massive, writhing construct of black metal and organic components that seemed to absorb energy weapons rather than being damaged by them. 2 Confederate cruisers were destroyed in the first hour before the human battle groups arrived. What followed was a display of combat prowess that left the Confederate commanders in awe. The human vessels moved in perfect coordination, executing maneuvers that Confederate tactical systems couldn't even predict. They targeted specific nodes on the swarm construct with precision strikes, gradually degrading its adaptive capabilities before delivering a killing blow with weapons the Confederacy had never seen before, devices that created temporary ruptures in space-time itself. When it was over, the Void Swarm Scout was destroyed, but at significant cost. 1 human destroyer and 3 Confederate vessels had been lost, with several more damage. In the aftermath, Admiral Chen personally came aboard the Confederate flagship. It was the first time most of the Confederate officers had seen a human in person rather than through view screens. Chen strode onto the bridge, her uniform bearing the scars of battle. She had transferred from her damaged flagship mid-combat to maintain command continuity. She approached High Admiral Zivkor and offered a perfect Chikta salute, the traditional greeting of Zivkor's species. Your crews fought with honor, Chen said, switching to flawless Chikta language. The fallen will be remembered. Zivkor was momentarily stunned by the gesture, then returned the salute. As will yours, Admiral Chen. Chen nodded, then addressed the bridge at large, speaking standard again. What you encountered today was a scout, smaller and less advanced than the main swarm forces. When they come in force, they will target every inhabited system in this galaxy. They do not negotiate, they do not retreat, and they learn from every engagement. How do you know so much about them? Asked Zivkor. Because, Chen said grimly, the same force that drove the Hive to attack your worlds 3 centuries ago was fleeing from the swarm. The Hive was just the harbinger. Now, the true enemy approaches. A shocked murmur ran through the bridge. You knew this? Zivkor demanded. We pieced it together over centuries of research, Chen replied. While rebuilding our civilization from ashes, we also studied why we fell. The evidence was there in the Hive's behavior patterns. They weren't conquerors, they were refugees, desperately seeking new territory. Why didn't you warn us earlier? Chen's expression hardened. When exactly should we have done that, High Admiral? When your Confederacy left our species to die. When you declared us extinct without searching for survivors. Or perhaps during the centuries when we were rebuilding our civilization without allies or support. The bridge fell silent. The past is done, Chen continued, her voice softening slightly. Now we must focus on survival, for all species. My tactical officers have prepared a detailed analysis of the battle. I suggest your analysts review it immediately. This encounter has given us new data on swarm capabilities. Zivkor studied the human admiral for a long moment before answering. I will assign my best people to work with yours. Good, Chen said, because that was just the beginning. 1 month after the Battle of Ferox, the Confederated Council chamber looked very different. The previously hierarchical arrangement had been reconfigured into a circular formation, with representatives from both the Confederacy and humanity seated as equals. Ambassador Reyes and Admiral Chen represented humanity, while Chairperson Lirith and High Admiral Zivkor led the Confederate delegation. Between them sat Archivist Threx, who had been appointed as historical advisor to the newly formed alliance. The defense perimeter for the core systems will require significant resources, Chen was saying, gesturing to the holographic display. But our simulations show it will increase survival probability by 62% if the swarm follows predicted attack patterns. The resource allocation is approved, Lirith confirmed. Production has already begun on the first wave of defensive platforms based on your designs. Chen nodded, then glanced at Reyes, who took over. There's another matter we need to address, the ambassador said. Cultural integration. Our forces will be working closely together, and misunderstandings could cost lives. What do you propose? Asked Lirith. Exchange programs, Confederate personnel aboard human vessels, human advisors with your forces, not just for tactical training, but for cultural understanding. Zivkor chittered thoughtfully. There will be resistance. Many of our species still view humans as unpredictable. Fear of the unknown is universal, Reyes acknowledged. We felt the same about your species once, but we've learned that diversity is strength. Different perspectives find solutions that homogeneous thinking cannot. Threx, who had been silent until now, spoke up. 3 centuries ago, I would have considered such cooperation impossible. Humanity was viewed as too aggressive, too ambitious for its own good. Now I see those traits may be exactly what saves us all. Not just those traits, Chen corrected. What nearly destroyed us also forged us. When your civilizations abandoned Earth, we learned a harsh lesson. Survival requires adaptation, cooperation, and unflinching determination. We failed you, Lirith acknowledged, her tendrils glowing with the soft blue of regret. The Confederacy of that era chose expediency over principle. Yes, Chen agreed bluntly, but now we have a chance to build something better. Not because we've forgotten the past, but because we refuse to let it dictate our future. Outside the chamber windows, the combined fleets of humanity and the Confederacy moved in coordinated patterns, former enemies now training together against a greater threat. Human vessels, sleek and darkly efficient, maneuvered alongside the more ornate ships of the various Confederate species. Different in design philosophy, but united in purpose. They believed we were legends, Threx mused, watching the fleets. Stories to frighten disobedient younglings. Beware the human ambition, we would say. And now? Asked Reyes. Threx's scales rippled with a pattern that translated roughly to hope tinged with apprehension. Now we pray that the legends were not exaggerated, because we will need every ounce of that legendary human resilience in the days to come. The meeting continued into the night. Representatives of species that had once considered each other extinct or mythical now planning a future together, not just for survival, but for what might come after, if they prevailed against the darkness approaching from beyond the stars. In the vast silence of space, the combined fleet continued its drills. Humanity had returned from the dead, and the galaxy would never be the same.